A flashback in the opening scene depicts two hobbits, Smeagol, Andy Serkis, and his companion Deagol, Thomas Robbins, fishing on the River Anduin near the Gladden Fields in the north of Middle-earth. A tremendous catch drags Deagol into the river, where he discovers the One Ring glinting in the river bottom. He scoops it up and climbs out of the water. Smeagol notices him fondling it, and as they both succumb to the ring's magic, they start arguing. Smeagol requests the ring, claiming it should be his birthday present. The quarrel escalates into a battle, and Smeagol strangles his companion with his bare hands while attempting to pry the ring from Deagol's clenched grip. Smeagol is shunned by his community and forced to flee. Smeagol, who suffers much from loneliness and shame, finds refuge in his love for the ring, which steadily tortures his psyche. He seeks solitude in caves beneath the mountains, where he lives to a ripe old age under the influence of the ring. He shrivels into a hunched, slinking creature recognized only by the obnoxious noise he makes in his throat, Gollum. Frodo, Elijah Wood, and Sam, Sean Astin, are currently resting in an alcove on the edges of Mordor. Sam wakes up to discover that his master has not slept. The days are getting darker as they draw closer to Minas Morgul and Mordor. Gollum appears and urges them to continue. Aragorn, Viggo Mortensen, Legolas, Orlando Bloom, Gimli, John Rhys-Davies, Gandalf, Ian McKellen, Theoden, Bernard Hill, and Eomer, Carl Urban, ride through Fangorn Forest to Isengard, where they meet Merry, Dominic Monaghan, and Pippin, Billy Boyd, feasting among the wreckage. Treebeard is discovered at the Tower of Orthanc in the heart of Isengard, where Saruman, Christopher Lee, has been imprisoned. Gandalf opposes Gimli's desire to kill Saruman, claiming that the wizard has lost his power and will no longer represent a threat. Saruman appears in front of them. Saruman's staff is shattered by Gandalf, depriving him of his power. Grima, Brad Dourif, his companion, stabs him with a knife. Saruman falls to his death, landing on the spikes of a gigantic water wheel, after Legolas shoots Grima with an arrow. During their conversation, Pippin notices Saruman's palantir among the flotsam and is captivated by it, but Gandalf immediately snatches it from him and conceals it under his cloak. The company travels to Edoras, where King Theoden has arranged a large supper to honor the victorious dead of the Hornburg battle. Theoden recognizes Eowyn, Miranda Otto's passion for Aragorn and tells her that he is glad for her, Aragorn being an honorable man and the architect of the triumph at Helm's Deep. Gandalf conveys his reservations about the mission to Aragorn. Aragorn advises him to trust his heart and believe that Frodo is still alive. Gollum awakens in the middle of the night while Frodo and Sam are sleeping and goes to one side to whisper to himself. His evil half detects some skepticism in Smeagol and maintains that if he can murder once, as he did with Deagol for the ring, he can murder again. Gollum then begins to guide Smeagol through their plan, which is to throw the hobbits into the clutches of Shelob in Cirith Ungol, where the ring can be regained. Sam overhears the talk and punishes Gollum for his betrayal. Frodo steps in, explaining that Gollum is vital for their mission as their guide. While Frodo's back is turned, Sam glowers as Gollum gives him an evil smirk. Pippin's curiosity gets the better of him that same night in Edoras, and he investigates it while relieving a sleeping Gandalf of the palantir. Pippin experiences a vision of a white tree burning in a stone courtyard, but he is apprehended by Sauron and subjected to mental torment and questioning as a result. Aragorn tries to save him, exposing himself briefly to Sauron. Pippin recovers from his trauma, and it is determined that he did not inform Sauron of the ring's whereabouts. Gandalf deduces from Pippin's vision of the White Tree that Sauron is preparing to assault the great Gondorian city of Minas Tirith, and he rides off to convey warning, taking Pippin with him, lest his desire to look into the Palantir, now in Aragorn's care, reappear. Arwen, Liv Tyler, has a vision of Eldarion, Sadwin Brophy, the son she will have with Aragorn, as she leaves Rivendell on her trek to the Undying Lands. She understands her father lied to her when he stated Aragorn and she had no future together. She returns to Rivendell and persuades Elrond, Hugo Weaving, that she cannot abandon Aragorn now that she has abandoned the life of the Eldar. She informs her father that, as predicted, the time has come to reforge Narsil. Narsil, Elendil's weapon, is the actual heir of Isildur, the man who wielded the sword to sever Sauron's grip on the One Ring. Gandalf and Pippin arrive to Minas Tirith, the city of kings carved from Mindalluin's rock. As they travel to find the steward Denethor, Pippin identifies the White Tree. John Noble. They approach him as he laments the loss of his son, Boromir, Sean Bean. Pippin swears allegiance to him in retaliation for Boromir's sacrifice. Denethor appears to be consumed by grief and has taken no steps to protect the city against Sauron's attack. Frodo, Sam, and Gollum arrive to Minas Morgul in the meantime. Wary of the adversary, they seek out the winding stair, which leads to Cirith Ungol's pass, concealed in the rocks that encircle the cursed city. Just then, the city gates open, and the Witch King of Angmar, commander of the Nazgul, dispatches his massive orc army from his lair, signaling the commencement of the war. Gandalf and Pippin observe the army's outpouring as a flash of lightning bursts up at the opening of the doors. Pippin fires the first of the beacon signals to Edoras, warning Theoden, Aragorn, and the rest of the Rohirrim to muster at Dunharrow and subsequently to Minas Tirith. Aragorn spots Eowyn saddled up with them and girt with a sword as they leave Edoras, but she swears that she is simply riding to see them depart and that the soldiers have found their captain in Aragorn. The Morgul army crosses Anduin on homemade boats and joins in battle with the Gondorian force, led by Boromir's brother Faramir, David Wenham. The orcs are too strong for the Gondorians, and they force them out of Osgiliath. Faramir and his few surviving soldiers flee to Minas Tirith, pursued by the Nazgul. Gandalf rides out to meet the retreating warriors and repels them, saving Faramir. Faramir, who encountered Frodo, Sam, and Gollum in Ithilien shortly before they departed for the mountain pass into Mordor, informs Gandalf of the perilous path Gollum is leading Frodo and Sam on, convincing Gandalf of Gollum's treachery. The hobbits are straining to ascend the incredibly steep steps, led by Gollum. Gollum reaches out to Frodo and expresses his sympathy, saying that he knows his anguish. Gollum also poisons Frodo against Sam, claiming that Sam would attempt to steal the ring from him. The Witch King orders his captain to send forth all legions to slaughter the Minas Tirith inhabitants, claiming that he will break the wizard Gandalf. Denethor, dissatisfied with Faramir's failing defense of Osgiliath, tricks him into mounting a perilous journey to recover the city. Gollum continues to pit the hobbits against one another, this time accusing Sam of stealing their food supplies. Frodo, in his delusory state, is distrustful of Sam and tells him to return home when Sam, in an attempt to help, offers to carry the ring, thus fulfilling Gollum's shrewd prediction. Faramir rides headlong into the arrows of the tented orcs while Pippin sings for Denethor, who eats his noon meal unconcernedly. Faramir's attack fails, and he is hauled back by his horse in a coma. A hooded figure rides slowly on a white horse along the winding path to the encampment in the hills during the weapon take at Dunharrow. Elrond is revealed to Aragorn by the figure. He gives Aragorn his heirloom, the newly reforged sword Narsil, now known as Andúril, Flame of the West. He begs Aragorn to use this sword to summon the dead men of Dunharrow and utilize their allegiance to Isildur's successor, i.e. Aragorn, to halt the attack of the Corsairs' ships, which are already sailing from the south. Aragorn adopts this advice and rides off into the dim Holt that night, accompanied by Legolas and Gimli. As he prepares to go, a sobbing Eowyn begs him not to, expressing her love for him, but Aragorn, knowing that Arwen had refused the promise of Valinor, also rejects Eowyn's love. Theoden sets forth to fight with 6,000 riders the next morning, unaware that Eowyn and Merry, who were both commanded by the king to stay behind, are part of his army. The Morgul soldiers, largely orcs, commence the siege of Minas Tirith by catapulting captive prisoners' skulls over the walls. Denethor sees his son Faramir and assumes he is dead. He also sees the strength of the warriors assembled against him and loses hope and his sanity, ordering the Gondorians to evacuate their positions. Gandalf, on the other hand, intervenes and incapacitates Denethor, seizing command of the defense. A battle between Gondorian trebuchets and Mordor's catapults occurs until the Witch King and the other ringwraiths on their fell beasts attack, shattering the trebuchets and terrifying the defenders. Gollum betrays Frodo to the monstrous spider creature Shelob in Cirith Ungol, but Sam returns to fight her off. When orcs from the Tower of Cirith Ungol arrive to investigate, Sam overhears that Frodo has just been paralyzed by Shelob's stinger. Denethor, distraught over the loss of both his sons, prepares a funeral pyre for himself and the unconscious Faramir in Minas Tirith. Denethor is ignorant that Faramir is alive and will be burned alive by the flames. Gandalf and Pippin arrive in the Hallows and save Faramir, but Denethor is tossed upon the fire and burns to death, turning to see his son waking awake from his injuries and tiredness. Down in the city, the Gondorians are losing the battle as the massive battering ram Grond shatters the city gates and trolls stream in. While the defenders withdraw to the city's upper levels, orcs crawl through the streets of the lower levels, plundering, burning, and massacring the men of Gondor. But then, in the midst of the tumult, a single horn pierces the air, and everyone turns to the west to watch the army of Rohan approach, just in time for the sun to rise. The Rohirrim charge into the orcs with devastating results. Their delight, however, is cut short by the approach of Herod's armies and the massive elephants, the Mumakil. The Witch King attacks Theoden, murdering Snowmane and injuring the king fatally. The Corsairs' ships appear to arrive just in time to aid the stranded orcs, but it is Aragorn who jumps off the lead ship, followed by an army of the dead. The orcs and Mumakil are entirely destroyed, and Eowyn and Merry kill the Witch King. Theoden dies from his wounds, and Aragorn fulfills the dead army's oath, freeing them from their curse and allowing them to rest in peace. Sam rescues Frodo from Cirith Ungol, which is mostly deserted after a war between the Tower's orc garrison's two factions over Frodo's precious mithril shirt. They set out on the lengthy journey across Mordor to Mount Doom. Gandalf realizes that there are 10,000 orcs between Cirith Ungol and Mount Doom, preventing Frodo from reaching his destination. Aragorn suggests leading the surviving soldiers to the Black Gate to divert the orcs' attention away from Frodo's route and distract the Eye of Sauron. Sam transports Frodo to Mount Doom, but Gollum appears and assaults them just as the Battle of Morannon begins. Instead of putting the ring into the fire at the crack of doom, Frodo succumbs to its power and puts it on, disappearing from view. The act informs Sauron, who dispatches the Ringwraiths to Mount Doom. Gollum knocks Sam down and then assaults Frodo, grabbing his ring finger and biting it off. As Gollum rejoices at finally reclaiming his precious, Frodo, still swayed by the ring's allure, charges at Gollum. They both fall over the abyss after a brief battle. Gollum falls into the fire with the ring, and Frodo struggles to hold on as his power dwindles. As the ring finally sinks into the lava and is destroyed, Sam saves Frodo. Sauron's eye screams as his essence disappears before the Tower of Barad-dûr crumbles and explodes, permanently removing his power. The subsequent shockwave consumes the orcs, Ringwraiths, and Sauron's remaining armies as the earth falls beneath their feet. The Black Gate and Mordor are both shaken apart. When the entire top of Mount Doom is blown off in a violent eruption, Frodo and Sam get stuck. They express their grief at not being able to visit the Shire again in the middle of the lava flows and the devastation of Barad-dûr. With the Nazgul destroyed, Gandalf is able to summon the eagles to transport the hobbits to safety. They awaken in Minas Tirith, rejoining the rest of the Fellowship, all but Boromir having survived the War of the Ring. Aragorn is proclaimed King of the West in Minas Tirith, ushering in a new age of peace, and marries Arwen. Everyone kneels in honor of the small hobbits at this point. Sam marries Rosie Cotton when the hobbits return to the Shire. Sarah MacLeod. Frodo has finished writing his entry in the Red Book of Westmarch, but he is still recovering from the wounds he got from the Ringwraiths at Weathertop and Shelob. Recognizing that he can never find peace on Middle-earth, he resolves to travel to Valinor with Gandalf, Bilbo, Elrond, and Galadriel. The Undying Lands. Before departing for the Havens, Frodo gives Sam the Red Book to record the years to come in his life. The final ship to depart Middle-earth sets sail, gently pushing away from the shore and sailing along the straight road into the uttermost west. Pippin and Merry depart, leaving Sam alone to gaze at the golden sunset. Sam returns up the lane to Bag End in the last scene, where he is greeted by his wife Rosie and children. Sam sighs and adds, "Well, I'm back," surrounded by his family and with the rest of his life ahead of him. As the television fades to black, he walks inside and shuts the door.